This is Pharoh's house.
So we begin.
Okay.
Greetings and welcome to Pharoh's House Podisode. This is Pharoh, and I am here virtually with Osmodeus.
Yes, sir. I'm Pharoh is somebody that I urge everybody to listen to and to reach out to if they've generated enough of a relationship with themselves to where they're ready, they're available to take the next step. That's I'm gonna get out of his way. I'm gonna ask him some questions, and you guys can soak up some of this if you're really ready. So, Pharoh, how's everything with you? Everything's good on your end, I'm assuming, if you're joining us today.
Well, let's see. The main thing is the recording. This is the first for me using this particular application to record. So my concern is that those who listen to this are able to hear it in a comfortable manner so that it's not too brash on the ears. So I am going to speak a little lower than what I normally speak at.
You know, Pharoh is sonically astute, and it's definitely, if anybody before you even tell him your life story, as soon as you start talking, he's going to understand. You know, when you do give him a call, he's going to understand so much just from the communication, the way you communicate your voice to the world. But I wanted to begin by asking you, Pharoh, what is the difference between man, original man, human being, and a chimera, and however you like to go about answering that?
There are various sources, written sources, that are allegedly written recordings of the origins of man. And then, of course, when you look at these words, these terms, obviously these are English terms right now, but when we look at the terms as they are said and used today, man is obviously a different word from mankind. Man is obviously a different word from woman. It's obviously a different term from hybrid and chimera. These are all different terms that designate some type of being. So we know, or some type of creature, if you want to call it creature. But creature's been relegated to animal. When it comes to the various designations you mentioned, one has to ask oneself who was created and who was not, who was generated, who was projected. And going by the details, for example, let's use one of the books that is popular around the world, the Bible, or the Tanakh. And it says that man was made, or man was created, or man was projected into this place. Sort of like you can inject something into your arm, into your bloodstream, and now you have projected something into a realm or reality. Regardless of how you look at it, man was injected or projected into this reality. Most people who read the Bible look at it in the form of a creation story, that man was created out of forms of nature we think of as soil, minerals, the dust of the earth, or the parts of the earth, so-called earth. And if you're going to say that, then you have to realize, well, what is the earth? In its pristine form, even in its pristine form, it is still made up of micro things, miniature things, life forms. So these life forms were put together, according to this book, and made man. That would be original man. Like a giraffe is a giraffe. There's a male and there's a female, but it's still a giraffe. So we really wouldn't say woman, we would just say man. Now, where does mankind fall into that? Mankind, according to the word, is kind of man, or are we talking about the kin of man? You have to be rational about these words. Human came along probably much later when scientists started to stratify beings into formats. So we have human as a format, a form of what? Mammal. Mammal is also supposedly a designation. All these words, does it point to something? Does it indicate something? Are we supposed to use it? And if we are supposed to use it, how and for what purpose? Obviously, today you have color stratification, and It's actually status as opposed to color, and that has purpose. So what's the purpose of man, mankind, and chimera? Determine who is who, then what's the purpose? How do they fit in? Are they supposed to be separated? In our world today, there's a lot of discombobulation, which means there's a mix of everything. Chimera, hybrid, man, mankind. We are led to think or speculate that there are groups or factions that some have labeled elite. I don't use that term, but I'm using this for those who do and those who have heard that word, that there are factions of so-called elites who obviously must be practicing some form of inbreeding because, according to the speculation, they've separated themselves from the masses. They have access to lineage information, so they know who to intermarry, whether for purposes of bloodline, whether for purposes of preserving their own bloodline in this physical form. Again, is this speculation, or does it all tie into man, mankind, chimera? There was a time when, and still is in many communities, certain communities, where you arranged the union of man and woman, or male and female, because you wanted to preserve a bloodline, or you wanted to enhance or increase a bloodline, or in some instances you wanted to enhance or increase wealth. But the primary purpose was always bloodline, and therefore you would have to have access to information. Were there suicides in that family? Was that family banished? Was someone shunned? Are they related to someone in their immediate family who was considered a renegade or degenerate? Was this person infertile? Various things were known and kept. It sounds horrendous to today's mind, or today's mindset and programming, but there was and probably still is a time that that's considered the norm. We're indoctrinated to randomly mate. If we stop and think about it, that is a form of programming. It's also a form of control. But even in that randomness, most do practice some form of discriminating behavior. If it's based on so-called economics, still kind of practice that. But do we practice the bloodline? No, not really. And do we get into whether someone is chimeric, or someone is original, or someone is a combination of something other? No. We just go on surface level. So basically everyone's in the blind or in the dark when it comes to mating and knowing who's who and what's what in this world. Are we supposed to know? Yes. I don't think there's very much in this realm that we are not supposed to know. That's not how we're presented with knowledge. So therefore, yes, everyone is randomly, blindly mingling. And then of course you add to that, this is an empire. You're distracted by a lot of different things. And because there's no backup, there's no validation, people get into it for a minute, for a second, but then they're brought back to what you are taught is reality, your bills, your everyday life, your sicknesses, and then you forget that picture, that part of the big picture.
So yeah, just more and more distraction to just keep you in an identity that isn't correct, and then you don't see life correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say? I don't want to be divisive, but like, what makes a person original man or a hybrid or a chimera? Like, what are the telltale signs of that? That I guess if you could do it you could tell us in an ambiguous way that wouldn't divide people, if that's even possible. It's like almost there to make it divisive.
Well, there's difference. We're not all the same, and we are supposed to respect the difference. Difference is manifested or created, if you will, by an higher intelligence and logic. You can feel or sense around you that this is an entire world of difference, an entire world of diversity. That means that there's a purpose for it. We are not to violate that. We can, as you know, you have a will to do whatever. Literally, there was a person, I'm not going to mention their name, and people probably know. He did not come up with the quote, but he supposedly said, do as thou wilt. which is such as the rule of the law or something to that effect. Well, many took that in the wrong light, but those who are astute, they know exactly what that meant. But there is a caveat that's left off of that. The caveat is, yeah, do whatever, do as thou wilt, or as some people probably say now, do you boo, or whatever, you do you, whatever the term is, it's still the same. There's the caveat that's left off of it is there are always consequences, and there's always an effect to what you do, and you will have to pay consequences, and it will be resounding, meaning others will also pay for what you've done. So there are consequences to whatever we do, everything we do. You can tell someone you want to fly, and that you're going to go fly, and if no one stops you, you can go fly. You can also say you're going to go fly without a plane or without any apparatus, and if no one stops you, you can go ahead and do it. But the consequences are instant. So there's consequences to everything. Everything.
To cross lines, yeah, crossing these lines that are divinely created, right?
Right.
Intelligently, however you would like to. But so as far as like the purpose and the place of original man, mankind, and chimeras, hybrids, what does that, do those other things serve a purpose, or is it just a purpose being served in this dysfunctional world? Like, is it just supposed to be original man, or everything's here, so everything is what it's supposed to be?
The whole point of an empire is to violate that. Empires colonize, and I use the word a lot, discombobulate, so that beings are now populations. So
The,
everything is
sta-
violation, even the
the,
nicest, sweetest thing.
the standard is sick, so everything is skewed. It's all skewed.
And therefore, what beings are on, and that includes every being, what beings are on is basically like an immunosuppressant. If you can think of immunosuppressant drugs that are used to stop the rejection of an implant in a being, in a vessel, that's what's going on and has been going on for. That's the other thing, violation of everything, including time. Who you are, where you are, what you are, and when you are have been discombobulated. So for the purpose of maintaining the empire. But obviously, there's got to be those in the know who know those questions: when, where, who, why, what, and how.
So the seeds, some seeds got sprouted here that were not supposed to be sprouted in this time, in this way, and like you're saying, like as far as
Mm.
people.
Well, not necessarily that. I'm saying that in discombobulating people by, you name all the things you probably have heard or read or learned in so-called history. Those are the avenues of moving people trafficking, if you like that term, getting folks from here to there. That's how parasites work. So you're being controlled by microorganisms, possibly, but you're also being put into places that benefit not really you. The foods you eat don't really benefit you, but in the long run, they benefit the framework that you dwell within. It's not even a niche. I cannot even call it a niche. And every being is in a system, supporting a system. The things you think you do, your volition, you probably want to question it,
Because a niche would be something that you truly created.
because this is an unstable place, and it becomes more unstable when you take beings outside of where they are supposed to be.
That's my next question. Where are people supposed to be? Like, who should be where as far as the map that people are familiar with today? Is there any
Mm.
way that you can? I know it's going to be broad. So much is so broad, but like, who is the like? I know obviously, there's a lot of people out of place,
Mhm.
but who? I know a lot of things when you tell people, you specifically when you tell them the truth, they have.
GrowWithPharo'sHouse.com. Sign up or join today, hear the rest of this podisode and other podisodes, as well as have access to a lot of media for your knowledge. Time to know is now. If you're already on the site and you're a free member, consider becoming a monthly member today.